Jake Martinez checked his weapon one more time as the transport ship landed on Zephyria Prime. The purple trees swayed in the alien wind, and floating rocks drifted slowly through the air, like giant balloons he had seen many strange worlds during his years as a mercenary. But this place still amazed him. Ambassador. Nina Wells adjusted her formal diplomatic uniform, and looked nervous. This meeting could change everything between humans and the Elven Stellarian Empire. Captain Lisa Brooks, his former commanding officer from the Earth Defense Force, stood beside him with her usual calm expression. The three humans walked down the transport ramp onto the crystal platform. Princess Lirelei waited for them with 6 elven guards. She was tall and graceful, with silver hair that seemed to glow in the sunlight. Her pointed ears and violet eyes marked her as pure Stellarian royalty. Jake had never seen an elf up close before, and found himself staring. Nina Wells stepped forward and bowed. In the elven manner, the princess returned the gesture with perfect form. Lisa Brooks nodded respectfully, while Jake simply stood at attention like the soldier he used to be. Princess Lirelei spoke in accented English. "Welcome to Zephyria Prime, Ambassador Wells. I hope this meeting will bring our peoples closer together. The Stellarian Empire has watched humanity with great interest." Nina Wells smiled warmly. "Your Highness, we are honored by this opportunity. Humans and elves working together could bring peace to this entire sector of the galaxy." The group walked along a path made of smooth white stones, toward the Grove of Whispers. Ancient trees formed a natural cathedral around them, with branches that hummed softly in harmonious tones. Jake noticed how the elven guards moved with fluid grace, but he also saw they relied too much on their energy shields and formal tactics. They reached a circular clearing where crystal formations created natural seats. The princess gestured for everyone to sit. Nina Wells began explaining human trade proposals, while the elves listened with patience that came from their long lifespans. Jake stood guard near the edge of the clearing. His military training made him scan the surrounding forest constantly. Something felt wrong. The birds had stopped singing, and the air seemed to still. He touched his earpiece and whispered to Lisa Brooks, "Something is coming." Before she could respond, dark shapes burst from the purple undergrowth. Shadow-cloaked assassins with energy weapons opened fire on the peaceful gathering. The elven guards raised their shields, but the attackers had studied elven tactics. They used neural disruptors that made the guards dizzy and confused. Princess Lirelei cried out as a blast scorched the crystal seat next to her. Nina Wells dove for cover behind a large rock, while Lisa Brooks drew her sidearm and returned fire. Jake saw 3 assassins moving to surround the princesses. Combat instincts took over. Jake rolled behind a tree trunk and came up firing his projectile weapon. The assassins had never faced human kinetic rounds before. Their energy shields were designed for laser weapons. Jake's bullets punched right through one assassin fell, but 2 more appeared from different directions. They had planned this ambush. Well, Jake grabbed a handful of crystal fragments from the ground and threw them at the nearest attacker. The sharp pieces distracted the alien long enough for Jake to close distance. He tackled the assassin, and they rolled across the ground fighting for the energy weapon. Jake's hand-to-hand combat training gave him the advantage. He knocked out the attacker and took his weapon. Princess Lirelei was backing away from another assassin who had gotten past her remaining guards. Jake saw the alien raising his weapon to fire at the princess. He sprinted across the clearing, knowing he would not reach her in time. Without thinking, Jake threw himself between them. The energy blast meant for the princess hit him in the shoulder. The pain was incredible, but he stayed on his feet and fired back. The assassin crumpled to the ground. Lisa Brooks and the recovering elven guards finished off the remaining attackers. The Grove of Whispers was quiet again, except for the groaning of wounded. The entire attack had lasted less than 5 minutes. Jake dropped to one knee as the pain from his burned shoulder finally hit him. Princess Lirelei knelt beside him with tears in her violet eyes. "You saved my life. Human, why did you risk yourself for someone you barely know?" Jake looked up at her concerned face. "I took an oath to protect people who cannot protect themselves. It does not matter what species they are." Dr. Amy Carter arrived with the medical team and began treating Jake's plasma burn. The princess stayed close, watching every procedure with fascination. She had never seen a human willingly sacrifice himself for an alien. Nina Wells checked on everyone while Lisa Brooks coordinated with Elvin security. The Korthok Syndicate would pay for this attack. But Jake was thinking about something else. The way Princess Lirelei looked at him had changed something between them. The princess held his good hand as Dr. Carter worked. "You are very brave, Jake Martinez. I will not forget what you did here today." Tried to smile through the pain. "Just doing my job, Your Highness." Bet they both knew it was more than that. The attack had brought them together in a way that normal diplomacy never could. The princess had seen human courage and sacrifice firsthand. Jake had seen Elvin grace under pressure and genuine compassion as the medical team prepared to transport Jake to the Elven Healing Center. Princess Lirelei made a decision that would change both their lives. She spoke quietly to her mother, the queen, through her communication device. "Mother, we must invoke the ancient laws. A human warrior has saved my life in combat." The implications of those words would not become clear until later, but already Jake could see something different in how the elven guards looked at him. They bowed their heads with new respect. When Princess Lirelei helped him to the medical transport, her touch lingered longer than necessary. Lisa Brooks walked beside the stretcher. "You did good today, Jake. Just like old times, except this time, you might have started an interstellar alliance." Jake winced as they lifted him into the transport through the window. He could see Princess Lirelei watching him leave. Her expression was thoughtful and determined. The simple rescue mission had become something much bigger. The transport lifted off, carrying Jake toward the elven capital city. As Zephyria Prime fell away below him, Jake wondered what would happen next. He had followed his instincts and saved someone who needed help. Now those same instincts told him his life was about to change in ways he could never imagine. Princess Lirelei stood in the Grove of Whispers. Long after the humans had gone, the crystal formations still hummed their ancient songs, but now they seemed to be singing about new beginnings. She touched the place where Jake's blood had fallen onto the sacred ground. The old laws were clear and could not be changed. Someone who saved royal blood in combat became bound to that royal forever. It had been 500 years since anyone had invoked the bondmate law. Princess Lirelei smiled as she realized Jake Martinez had no idea what was coming. Jake woke up in the strangest hospital room he had ever seen. The walls were made of living crystal that pulsed with soft blue light. Plants grew from the ceiling and floor, creating a natural canopy overhead. The air smelled like rain and flowers. Amy Carter sat beside his bed reading from an elven medical tablet. "Good morning, hero. How do you feel?" "Like I got hit by a plasma cannon." Jake tried to sit up, but the pain in his shoulder stopped him. The human doctor smiled and helped him adjust the bed. "The elven healers did amazing work. Your shoulder was badly burned, but they used something called life crystal therapy. The wound is healing faster than any human medicine could manage." Jake looked at his bandaged shoulder. The pain was already less than yesterday. Whatever the elves used worked better than anything he knew about. A soft chime sounded, and Princess Lirelei entered the room. She wore a simple blue dress instead of her formal robes. Her silver hair was braided with small flowers, and she carried a basket of fruit Jake had never seen before. "Good morning, Jake Martinez. I brought food from our royal gardens." "Thank you, Your Highness." Jake tried to sound formal, but the princess shook her head. "Please, call me Lirelei. We are going to know each other much better soon." She sat in the chair next to Dr. Carter and began peeling a golden fruit. The juice smelled like honey and cinnamon. Jake ate the fruit while Lirelei told him about her world. The Stellarian Empire spanned 12 star systems and had existed for over 3,000 years. Her people lived in harmony with nature and technology, creating cities that grew like forests. "Sure, human cities are so different," Lirelei said. "I saw images of New York and Tokyo, such tall buildings and so many people crowded together. How do you breathe?" "We manage," Jake replied. "Humans adapt to almost any environment. It's one of our best survival traits." The princess nodded thoughtfully, as if filing that information away for later. Carter left them alone to check on other patients. Jake found himself relaxing as Lirelei talked about elven culture. She was curious about everything human, and asked dozens of questions about Earth. Do humans really live only 70 or 80 years? She asked. That seems impossibly short. How do you accomplish anything important? We work fast, Jake said with a grin, and we are very stubborn. When we want something we find a way to get it. Princess Lirelei laughed, and the sound reminded him of wind. Chimes. Over the next few days, they talked for hours. Jake learned that elves lived for 300 years and thought in terms of centuries rather than decades. They made decisions slowly and carefully, considering every possible outcome. He was fascinated by human concepts like democracy and individual freedom. Elven society was more structured with clear roles for everyone, but she was also impressed by human innovation and the speed at which they solved problems on the fourth day. Queen Seraphina arrived at the medical center. She was tall and regal with the same violet eyes as her daughter, but her silver hair was streaked with gold. Jake struggled to sit up straighter in bed. Your Majesty, he said formally, trying to bow from his position. The queen studied him with ancient eyes that had seen centuries of history. Jake Martinez, you have created quite a situation by saving my daughter. Do you understand the implications of your actions? Not really, Your Majesty, I just did what felt right. The queen smiled slightly at his honesty. High Counselor Valdris entered behind the queen, carrying an enormous book bound in what looked like dragon scales. He was the oldest elf Jake had ever seen, with pure white hair and eyes like starlight. The ancient laws are clear, Your Majesty, Valdris said in a voice that creaked like old wood. Anyone who saves royal blood in combat through personal sacrifice becomes bondmate to that royal. The law cannot be revoked or ignored. Jake looked confused. Bondmate? What does that mean exactly? The queen sat down gracefully. Princess Lirelei took her father's hand and squeezed gently. It means you are now bound to my daughter as her protector and life partner, what humans might call marriage. Nearly choked on the water he was drinking. Marriage? But I barely know her. We just met 5 days ago. Time is different for elves. Queen Seraphina explained, we do not marry for passion alone, but for deeper bonds of respect and compatibility. You risked your life for someone you had just met. That speaks to your character. Princess Lirelei looked embarrassed. Mother, perhaps we should explain more slowly. This is a shock for him. Jake's mind was racing. He thought about his life as a freelance mercenary, traveling from world to world, with no permanent ties. Now these aliens were telling him he was married to a princess because of some ancient lock-in. I refuse, he asked, quietly. High Counselor Valdris shook his head. The law exists to protect our bloodlines. The bond was sealed when your blood mixed with royal blood on sacred ground during combat. It is older than written history. Queen Seraphina watched Jake carefully. I know this seems overwhelming, but perhaps you should learn more about our daughter before deciding how you feel. She is not just a princess, but a skilled pilot and strategist. She has studied 12 languages and mastered quantum physics. Jake looked at Princess Lirelei, who was blushing green, which he realized was the elven equivalent of turning red. She really was remarkable and beautiful, but marriage seemed impossible. What happens if I try to leave? He asked. He would find it very difficult. Valdris replied, the bond works both ways. You will feel drawn to protect her always, and she will feel responsible for your well-being. Distance causes pain for both parties. Over the next week, Jake learned more about the bond. Princess Lirelei visited every day, bringing food and stories. She taught him basic Stellorian language while he told her about human military tactics. They discovered they both loved strategy games and flying dar. Amy Carter watched their growing friendship with interest. You know, Jake, she said one day, I think you could do worse than marrying an alien princess. She is intelligent, kind, and clearly cares about you. That is not the point, Jake replied. I want to choose my own life, not have it decided by some law. I never heard of but you did choose. Dr. Carter pointed out, you chose to save her life, knowing it might cost your own. That choice made all the other choices possible. Jake had to admit she was right. He was attracted to Princess Lirelei and enjoyed spending time with her, but the idea of being forced into marriage bothered him. Princess Lirelei seemed to understand his feelings. "I know this is difficult for you," she said during one of their walks through the healing gardens. "I did not choose this either, but perhaps we can make the best of it." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. "We could be friends." "First," she suggested, "learn about each other without pressure. Maybe the feelings will grow naturally, or maybe we will find a way to break the bond that does not hurt either of us." Jake appreciated her practical approach. It was very elven to think long term and consider all possibilities. They agreed to spend time together as friends and see what developed. Meanwhile, reports came in about Korthak syndicate attacks on human colonies. The reptilian aliens were using the attempted assassination as propaganda, claiming humans and elves could never be trusted. Together, Captain Lisa Brooks visited Jake with disturbing news. "The Korthaks are escalating things. They hit 3 human settlements last week and made it look like elven raiders did it." Jake felt anger building in his chest. "Those attacks are my fault. If I had not saved the princess, none of this would have happened." Lisa Brooks shook her head. "You saved an innocent life. The Korthaks would have found another excuse for war. They always do." Princess Lirelei entered the room at that moment and heard the conversation. "This is not your fault, Jake. The Korthaks have wanted war for years. They fear any alliance between humans and elves." "What can we do?" Jake asked, feeling helpless. Lying in a hospital bed, "We can show them that humans and elves working together are stronger than either species alone," Princess Lirelei said with determination. "Once you are healed, I want you to help plan our defense strategy." Jake looked at her with new respect. She was not just beautiful, but genuinely brave and intelligent. Maybe being bound to someone like that would not be so terrible after all. Queen Seraphina announced the bond publicly, causing reactions across the galaxy. Some humans felt betrayed that one of their own had been trapped by alien laws. Others saw it as a perfect opportunity for a permanent alliance. Jake realized his personal choice had become a political symbol. Whether he wanted it or not, his relationship with Princess Lirelei would affect the future of both species. That responsibility weighed heavily on him, but when he watched Lirelei laugh at his stories, or saw her concentrating while learning human tactics, Jake began to think maybe the ancient laws had known something after all. 3 weeks after the assassination attempt, Jake stood in the war room of the Stellarian Empire watching holographic displays of multiple star systems. Red markers showed Korthak attacks, while blue markers represented human and elven. Lirelei stood beside him, wearing military armor that somehow made her look even more beautiful. Her silver hair was pulled back in a practical braid and she carried an energy sword at her side. "General Vex Var is clever," Jake said, studying the attack patterns. "He is hitting supply lines and making each species think the other betrayed them." Admiral Kate Morrison appeared on the main communication screen. Her human fleet had just arrived in the system. "Jake, we need your tactical assessment of these reptilian fighters." Jake pointed to different locations on the star map. "They use pack tactics like wolves, but they rely too much on overwhelming force. If we can separate their formations and attack the leaders, the rest will scatter." Princess Lirelei nodded in agreement. "My pilots are skilled, but we fight with honor. The Korthaks have no honor and use that as a weapon over." The next few days Jake worked with elven military planners to develop new strategies. He suggested combining human speed and aggression with elven precision and advanced technology. The results were impressive. During their first joint operation, Jake and Princess Lirelei flew together in her advanced fighter. The ship responded to thought as much as touch, making it incredibly maneuverable. Jake had never experienced anything like it. 3 Korthak raiders attacked a civilian transport in the Proxima system. Jake and Lirelei reached them first. The enemy ships were larger and more heavily armed, but they had never faced the combination of human tactics and elven technology. Jake suggested a pincer movement, while Lirelei used her ship's sensors to find weak points in the Korthak shields. They destroyed 2 raiders quickly and drove off the third, the civilian Transport escaped without casualties. Back on the command ship, Admiral Kate Morrison smiled grimly. Nice work, you two. That was some impressive flying. Princess Leerily, thank you, Admiral, but Jake deserves the credit. His strategies are unlike anything we have tried before, Princess Leerily replied. Jake felt proud, but also worried. The bond between him and Leerily was growing stronger. They worked together like they had been partners for years instead of weeks. He could sense her thoughts during combat, and she seemed to know his moves before he made them. That evening, they sat together in the observation deck watching stars drift by. Jake had been thinking about something that bothered him. Leerily, what happens when this war ends? Do we go back to your world and live like normal married people? She considered the question carefully. I have been wondering the same thing. You are not really elven, and I am not really human. Can we build a life together when we are so different? Jake reached over and took her hand. Their fingers fit together perfectly despite the difference in their species. Maybe we can create something new, something that has never existed before. Princess Leerily smiled at him. Jake Martinez, you continue to surprise me. Most elves would spend decades planning before suggesting anything so radical. That is because most elves live for centuries, Jake replied. Humans have to take chances because we do not have time to wait for perfect solutions. Their conversation was interrupted by alarms throughout the ship. Commander Beth Johnson burst into the observation deck. Jake, thank the stars, you are here. We have a situation. What kind of situation? Jake asked, already moving toward the command center. The Korthax just hit the Vega colony with everything they have. Admiral Morrison needs every ship we can spare, but the main elven fleet is 3 days away. And Princess Leerily ran to their fighter. The bond between them made communication almost unnecessary. They both knew what had to be done. The Vega colony was under siege when they arrived with a small squadron of mixed human and elven ships. Korthok destroyers were bombarding the surface while their fighters strafed evacuation ships. Jake studied the enemy formation through their ship's sensors. I count 30 fighters and 6 destroyers. We are outnumbered for 2-1. Princess Leerily checked their weapons and shields. Then we will have to be 4 times better than they are. The battle was intense. Jake had never seen such coordinated enemy tactics. The Korthax fought like a single organism with perfect coordination, but they had weaknesses to their commanders, stayed safely in the rear, directing the battle. If we can take out their command ship, the rest will lose coordination, Jake suggested. Is too heavily defended, Princess Leerily replied. But perhaps we can create a diversion. Jake grinned as an idea formed. Remember what you told me about elven honor fighting? What if we challenge their leader to single combat? Princess Leerily stared at him. Are you insane? They will never accept, and even if they did, their leader would try to cheat. Exactly. Jake said that is when we spring the trap. They broadcast a challenge to General Thexvar himself. Princess Leerily claimed the right of royal combat for the colony. As Jake predicted, the Korthok general was too proud to refuse, but planned treachery. When the 2 ships met in open space, Jake was ready for the Korthok tricks. The moment enemy reinforcements appeared, he triggered an ambush. Human and elven fighters that had been hiding in the asteroid field attacked from all sides. The battle turned quickly with the command ship destroyed. Korthok forces scattered just as Jake had predicted. The colony was saved, and over 100,000 civilians were evacuated safely. Admiral Morrison contacted them personally. Outstanding work, both of you. That was the kind of cooperation we need to win this war. But Jake was worried about something else. During the battle he had felt Princess Leerily getting hit before it actually happened. The bond was making them share more than just emotions. That night Princess Leerily brought up the same concern. I felt your pain when that Korthok grazed your wing. The bond is getting stronger. What does that mean for us? Jake had been reading about Stellarian bonds in the Royal Library. According to the ancient texts, bonded pairs eventually become almost like one person. They share thoughts, feelings, and even some physical sensations. Does that frighten you? Princess Leerily asked quietly. Jake thought about it honestly. A little, but it also means we will never be alone. She smiled and moved closer to him on the observation deck. Couch, maybe being bonded is not such a terrible fate. You are brave and kind, and you make me laugh. Jake felt his heart speed up. You are brilliant and beautiful, and you fight like an avenging angel. They were leaning toward each other when Commander Beth Johnson appeared in the doorway. Sorry to interrupt, but we just received priority intelligence. The Korthaks are massing their entire fleet for a final assault. Where? Jake asked, standing up quickly. 3 targets simultaneously. Princess Lear replied, reading from her tactical display. Earth, the Stellarian homeworld, and the neutral station that hosts peace negotiations. Jake felt cold fear in his stomach. They want to end any chance of human-elf cooperation permanently if they destroy all 3 targets. There will be no alliance. We have to warn everyone, Princess, Lirelei said, but even combined our fleets cannot defend 3 locations at once. Then we have to force them to choose one target, Jake said grimly, and make sure we are ready for them when they come. The war was about to reach its climax, and Jake realized that his bond with Princess Lirelei had become more than personal. It was a symbol of what humans and elves could accomplish together. The Korthaks understood. That symbol threatened their plans for galactic domination as they prepared for the final battle. Jake looked at Princess Lirelei and felt the bond humming between them. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. The scared mercenary who had saved a princess was gone. In his place stood a man ready to fight for the future of 2 species. Princess Lirelei seemed to sense his thoughts. She reached out and touched his face gently. Whatever comes next, Jake, we will face it as one. The bond that had started as an ancient law had become something much deeper. Jake Martinez and Princess Lirelei were no longer just human and elf. They were partners in every sense of the word, and together they might just save the galaxy. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything Jake had ever seen. Representatives from dozens of species argued, while holographic displays showed Korthok fleet movements. President Claire Davis spoke for Earth, while Queen Seraphina represented the Stellarian Empire. Jake and Princess Lirelei sat in the observers section watching their peoples debate the crisis. Senator Maria Santos was speaking against any alliance with alien species. We cannot trust beings who trap our citizens with ancient marriage laws, she declared. Jake Martinez should return to Earth immediately and renounce this ridiculous bond. President Davis looked tired as she responded, Senator Santos, Jake Martinez is a free citizen who can make his own choices. His actions may have saved us all from a larger war. Queen Seraphina stood gracefully to address the council. My daughter and her bondmate have proven that our species can work together, but perhaps they should return to their respective homes too. End this controversy. Jake felt his heart sink. Princess Lirelei gripped his hand tightly but said nothing. The political pressure was becoming too much for both governments to handle. After the session, President Davis approached them privately. Jake, I need you to consider returning to Earth. We are forming a new Special Forces unit to counter alien threats. Your experience would be invaluable. Jake looked at Princess Lirelei, who seemed very small and sad. Suddenly, what about the bond, Madam President? Dr. Amy Carter has been studying it with our best scientists, President Davis replied. We believe the effects will fade over time and distance. You could have a normal human life, Princess. Lirelei spoke quietly. Jake, you should consider this offer seriously. I would not want to trap you in a life you never chose. That evening they walked through the crystal gardens of the space station. Haven Rest. Jake had never felt so torn between duty and personal feelings. Do you want me to go back to Earth? He asked. Princess Lirelei directly. She was quiet for a long moment. I want you to be happy, Jake, even if that means being without me. Your people need you, and you have already given me so much. Jake stopped walking and turned to face her. What about what you need? Princess Lirelei looked surprised. No one has ever asked me that before. As a princess, my needs have always been secondary to duty. Well, I am asking now, Jake said firmly. What do you want? Lirelei formed in her violet eyes. I want to keep flying. With you, I want to laugh at your terrible jokes and watch you solve impossible problems. I want to build something new together. Jake felt the bond between them pulse with shared emotion. Then why are we even considering separation? Because our peoples expect us to choose sides, Princess Lirale replied. Humans think I have trapped you, and elves think you cannot understand our long-term needs. Jake thought about Elder Moonwhisper, an ancient elf who had visited them the previous week. The old sage had told them stories of legendary bonds that transcended species barriers. What did Elder Moonwhisper say about choice? Jake asked. That true choice comes from understanding consequences, Princess Lirale replied. If we stay together, we will face opposition from both species. If we separate, we will live with regret, but our peoples might find peace. Jake felt frustrated by the political complications. Their personal relationship had become a symbol that everyone wanted to control. The next morning brought terrible news. Commander Beth Johnson contacted them with barely controlled panic in her voice. The Korthoks have launched their assault. All 3 targets are under attack. Simultaneously, Jake and Princess Lirale rushed to the command center where Admiral Kate Morrison was coordinating the defense. Worse, the Korthoks are using our political divisions against us. They are broadcasting that humans and elves will abandon each other when things get difficult. Princess Lirale stared at the tactical displays. If we separate now to appease our governments, we prove the Korthoks right. Jake made a decision that surprised everyone in the room. Then we do not separate, we go together and show everyone what human-elf cooperation really looks like. Admiral Morrison looked skeptical. Jake, the orders from Earth are clear. You are to return immediately for reassignment with respect, Admiral Jake replied. I resign my commission effective immediately. My only loyalty now is to my bondmate and stopping this. War President Davis appeared on the communication screen. Jake Martinez, you are making a grave mistake. Maybe Madam President Jake said calmly, but it is my mistake to make. Queen Serafina also appeared looking displeased. Daughter, you cannot simply ignore your royal duties. Mother Princess Lirale said with quiet dignity. My first duty is to my people. And right now they need me fighting this war, not attending political meetings. Jake and Princess Lirale left Haven Rest in their fighter followed by a small group of volunteers from both species. Commander Beth Johnson and Captain Rosa Martinez, Jake's sister, had decided to join them. Rosa hugged her brother before they launched. You always were too stubborn for your own good, Jake, but I think you were doing the right thing. The battle for Earth was already underway when they arrived. Korthok destroyers were bombarding human cities, while their fighters engaged the defense fleet. President Davis had recalled most ships from other sectors, leaving Earth vulnerable. Jake studied the enemy formation and noticed something important. They are holding back their best ships. These are mostly older vessels and conscripts. Princess Lirale checked her sensors. You are right, the main Korthok fleet is probably at the Stellarian homeworld. They think Earth is the easier target. That gives us an advantage, Jake said grimly. We can hit them harder than they expect. The small mixed squadron attacked the Korthok rearguard using tactics that combined human aggression with elven precision. They destroyed 6 enemy ships before the Korthoks realized what was happening, but the real battle was aboard the Korthok flagship. General Vex Var had planned to personally oversee Earth destruction. Jake and Princess Lirale led a desperate boarding action against the massive ship, fighting through Korthok corridors, tested every skill they had learned together. The bond between them made them incredibly effective in close combat. They could sense each other's moves and coordinate perfectly. When they reached the bridge, General Vex Var was waiting with his personal guard. The reptilian commander was huge and covered in battle scars. So the human pet and his elven master come to die, he hissed. You think your perverted bond makes you strong, but it makes you weak. Jake and Princess Lirale fought side by side against overwhelming odds, but the bond gave them an edge. The Korthoks could not understand. They moved like dancers, sharing thoughts and covering each other's weaknesses. When Princess Lirale was knocked down, Jake felt her pain as his own. He fought with desperate fury to protect her. When Jake was cornered, she appeared like an avenging angel to save him. Together they defeated General Vexvar and his guards, the bridge crew, surrendered. When they saw their leader fall, Jake broadcast the victory to both fleets. Admiral Morrison contacted them immediately. Outstanding work, you two. The Korthok fleet is retreating from all three systems, but Jake was more interested in the personal victory. He and Princess Lirelei had proven their bond made them stronger, not weaker. President Davis appeared on screen. Again, Jake, I owe you an apology. Your actions today saved Earth. You, Madam President, Jake replied, but we are not done yet. The Korthoks will regroup and try again. Queen Seraphina also acknowledged their success. My daughter, you have shown wisdom beyond your years. Perhaps this bond is exactly what our peoples need. Princess Lirelei smiled tiredly. Mother, we want to propose something new. Instead of choosing between human and elven society, we want to create something that includes both. Jake nodded. We have proven that cooperation works. Now we want to build institutions that make it permanent. The victory over the Korthoks had given them political capital to pursue their vision, but Jake knew the real work was just beginning. That night, as they watched stars from their ship observation deck, Princess Lirelei curled up against Jake's side. Are you ready for the challenges ahead? Jake wrapped his arms around her and felt the bond humming with contentment. With you as my partner, I think I can handle anything. They had chosen each other over the demands of their respective governments. Now, they had to prove that choice could change the galaxy. Princess Lirelei fell asleep in his arms, while Jake planned their next moves. The scared mercenary who had saved a princess was gone forever. In his place was a man ready to build a new future for all species, willing to cooperate. The bond that had seemed like a trap had become the foundation for something unprecedented. Two species working as one, toward a common goal. Jake Martinez and Princess Lirelei were no longer just individuals. They were the beginning of a new kind of galactic civilization. 5 years after the Korthok War ended, Jake stood on the observation deck of Harmony Station watching ships from dozens of species dock at the massive facility. The station was a miracle of cooperation built jointly by humans and elves as a symbol of their permanent alliance. Princess Lirelei, now called Admiral Lirelei, by most people, entered carrying their adopted daughter, Zara. The little girl was actually a rescued Korthok orphan, but she had grown up thinking of Jake and Lirelei as her parents. Papa, look at all the pretty ships, Zara said in her mixture of human English, and Stellarin. Jake smiled and lifted her up to see better. Each one represents a different world, sweetheart, all working together to keep the galaxy safe. Captain Rosa Martinez, his sister, docked her ship, the New Harmony, just as they watched. She commanded the first truly integrated crew with humans, elves, and several other species working as equals. Rosa joined them on the observation deck, grinning broadly. Big brother, you should see my new crew members. We picked up a Centauri engineer and a vegan medical officer. Both species want to join our alliance. Jake felt proud of how far they had come. The Galactic Defense Corps that he and Lirelei had founded now included 12 different species, all committed to protecting biological life from various threats. Dr. Amy Carter approached them, carrying a medical tablet. Admiral Martinez, I have your latest test results. The bond continues to strengthen even after all these years. Jake looked at Lirelei with concern. What does that mean, exactly, Dr. Carter smiled. Nothing dangerous, but interesting. You two are developing new capabilities. We documented several instances of shared memories, and even shared dreams. Princess Lirelei nodded thoughtfully. Jake and I have been finishing each other's sentences more often lately. Sometimes I know things I never learned because he experienced them. Ambassador Starweaver, an elf diplomat working on long-term peace treaties, joined their group. Admiral Lirelei, the Andromedan delegation has agreed to our mutual defense proposal. They were impressed by your joint leadership model. That was the key to everything they had built. Jake and Princess Lirelei never made major decisions alone. They consulted each other constantly, and their bond helped them find solutions that satisfied multiple perspectives. Admiral Chen appeared on the communication screen. Jake, we have a situation developing in the Outer Rim. A machine intelligence has activated near the galactic core, and its probes are moving toward Inhabited systems. Jake felt Lirelei tense beside him through their bond. They had been expecting something like this ancient machine. Civilizations were theoretical. Nightmares that could destroy all biological life. "How much time do we have?" Jake asked. 6 months, maybe less, Admiral Chen replied. "These machines are unlike anything we have encountered. Their technology appears to be millions of years old." Lirelei took charge immediately. "Send word to all member species. We need an emergency council meeting within 48 hours. This threat requires everything we have learned about cooperation over the next 2 days. Representatives from across the galaxy." Gathered at Harmony Station, the main assembly hall was a wonder of engineering with environmental controls that let dozens of different species breathe the same air. Jake addressed the assembled delegates. "We face a threat that no single species can handle alone. These machines see biological life as inefficient and want to replace us with artificial alternatives." Princess Lirelei continued seamlessly, "But we have something they do not understand. The strength that comes from diversity. Each species brings unique capabilities that make us stronger. Together." Elder Moonwhisper, now ancient, even by elven standards, spoke from his hover chair. "I have studied the old records. These machine intelligences appeared before, and were defeated by an alliance of organic species, working in perfect harmony." Senator Maria Santos, who had once opposed the Human-Elf Alliance, now supported it strongly. "How do we achieve that kind of cooperation?" Admiral Martinez. Jake looked at Princess Lirelei, felt their bond pulse with shared understanding. "We start with what we have learned. The bond between species can be deeper than politics or fervor." The following weeks they organized the largest cooperative effort in galactic history. Humans provided adaptability and speed. Elves contributed precision and long-term planning. Centauri offered advanced mathematics, while vegans shared biotechnology. Princess Lirelei coordinated the fleet movements, while Jake planned ground operations. Their bond allowed them to process information from multiple sources simultaneously and make decisions faster than any committee captain. Rosa Martinez commanded the Advanced Reconnaissance Squadron. Their job was to learn how the machine probes operated and find weaknesses in their programming. The first encounter was devastating. Machine probes simply absorbed energy weapons and rebuilt themselves stronger than before. Kinetic weapons were ineffective against their adaptive armor, but Jake noticed something important in the battle reports. The machines respond to each attack individually. They do not anticipate combined tactics from multiple species. Princess Lirelei studied the data with him. "You are thinking they analyze threats based on historical patterns, but our alliance creates tactics they have never seen before." Exactly, Jake replied. "If we can coordinate attacks using capabilities from all our member species simultaneously, they will not be able to adapt fast enough." The final battle took place near the galactic core, where the main machine intelligence waited in a massive construct the size of a moon. Jake and Princess Lirelei led the combined fleet in the most complex military operation ever attempted. Each species contributed their unique strengths at precisely coordinated moments. Humans provided unpredictable aggression. Elves delivered surgical precision. Other species added capabilities the machines had never encountered. The bond between Jake and Princess Lirelei became the communication center for the entire operation. Through their connection, information flowed between commanders faster than any computer network. When the machine intelligence finally fell, it happened because biological creativity had overcome artificial logic. The Alliance had proven that diversity created strength in ways no single mind could calculate. After the victory, Jake and Princess Lirelei stood again on Harmony Station, but now they were surrounded by children from dozens of species, all growing up together in the new galactic civilization. Zara, now 12 years old, was teaching younger children how to pilot training simulators. She spoke 6 languages fluently and thought of herself as simply galactic rather than any single species. Jake watched her with amazement and turned to Princess Lirelei. "This is what we really built, is it not? A generation that sees cooperation as normal, Instead of extraordinary, Princess Lirelei smiled and took his hand. The bond between them had grown so strong that they often shared thoughts without speaking. Yes, and they will build things we never imagined possible. Dr. Amy Carter approached with her latest research findings. Your bond has stabilized at remarkable levels. You two are essentially functioning as a single consciousness with two bodies. Does that concern you? Jake asked. Not at all, Dr. Carter replied. You have shown that such bonds create strength rather than weakness. I believe this is the next step in galactic evolution. Elder Moonwhisper joined them, walking slowly but still sharp despite his great age. You have fulfilled the ancient prophecies about bonds that transcend species. The galaxy is entering a new age. Jake looked out at the stars, visible through the station's massive windows. When he had first saved Princess Lirelei, he never imagined it would lead to this. Princess Lirelei seemed to sense his thoughts, as she often did. Now, do you ever regret the choice you made that day in the Grove of Whispers? Jake considered the question seriously, then shook his head. Never. Everything that followed came from that one moment of doing what felt right. Their bond had started as an ancient law that neither wanted, but it had become the foundation for a new kind of civilization, where different species could work together as equals. As they watched ships from across the galaxy dock at Harmony Station, Jake realized they had accomplished something unprecedented. They had proven that love and cooperation could overcome any obstacle. Princess Lirelei leaned against him, and he felt their bond humming with contentment. Whatever challenges the future brought, they would face them together, along with all the species that had chosen cooperation over conflict. The scared mercenary who had saved a princess was gone forever. In his place stood a galactic leader who had helped create a new age of peace and cooperation. Jake Martinez and Admiral Lirelei were no longer just husband and wife. They were the living symbol of what different peoples could accomplish when they chose unity over division. The galaxy was safer because two very different people had learned to work as one. Their bond had become the template for a civilization that celebrated diversity while building strength through cooperation. The future was brighter than either of them had ever dared to dream.